Hello, everybody. I'm Peter the Booklover, and this is Book Talk. This is where I talk about the books I recently read. This is episode 15, and this one is a Star Wars story, The Empire Strikes Back. I really like this one. Let's talk about it. Hello, everybody. I am Peter the Booklover. I like to read a lot of books, and I like to collect books, and I like to talk about the books that I've read. I also talk about the movies that I've watched, but in this episode, I'm going to talk about the books that I've read. And this is The Empire Strikes Back, a wonderful story, and I'm going to enjoy talking about it. But before I get into the book, I want to actually thank everybody that's here. Thank you for giving me your time. I know your time is precious, and I thank you for giving me your time. You're wonderful. Okay, now I read this story from this. This is an unabridged version of The Empire Strikes Back. This is a great book. This is the original trilogy, Part 4, Part 5, and Part 6. And this book came out in 1980, and I believe this was released after they released the movie because they did not want to reveal anything, because there's like a twist in this movie that they wanted to keep secret. And this was adapted by Donald F. Glut. Okay, the way that I'm going to do this is that I'm not going to cover the whole story of Star Wars. Instead, I'm going to point out a couple differences that I thought that were pretty cool. So let's just get into this. Let's start off with the first difference, is that when you watch the movie, you've got the opening crawl, and it gives you an update of where you are in the story. In the book, it just drops you off on Hoth, and you're with Luke Skywalker, and he's on his Tauntaun. And that's how this book starts, at least in the copy that I have. And the first thing when you're reading the book that you learn in the book that you do not find out from the movie is that Tauntauns are snow lizards. They don't cover that in the movie. And that's a pretty interesting fact, that Tauntauns are actually not llamas or, part camel or something like that. They're actually part lizards. And that's pretty unique because usually lizards hate the cold. And I found that to be an interesting fact. And that's the first fact that I've learned from this book. Luke Skywalker gets attacked by a snow creature, and then he winds up getting lost outside, and Han Solo comes and saves him. And then Han Solo, to keep him warm, he cuts open a tauntaun that dies to put Luke in. And a line he says in the movie, he says, "I thought they smelled bad on the outside." And it's a great line because the audience really laughed when he said that. I found it funny. But in the book, he doesn't say that. He does mention how the tauntaun smells really bad, but that line is not in the book, which was pretty cool. Now, then, he saves them in the same way. They describe the attack of the AT-AT walkers coming. There's slight differences, but a lot of the same things that are in the movie are in the book. And one thing that's really cool about reading this book is, like, as you're reading it, you're really visualizing the movie. And it's a pretty cool experience. I really enjoyed that. But then you've got it to where Han Solo takes off with Princess Leia and Chewbacca and C-3PO. And they take off, and there's not a lot of differences that I would point out, other than when Han Solo and Princess Leia have a moment, and he kisses her, and then C-3PO interrupts him while he's kissing her. In the book, C-3PO does not interrupt them as they're kissing. And another thing that's different in the book on that scene is Chewbacca is actually watching them interact with each other. He stops working on the machine, and he actually looks into them, making this scene to where they kiss for the first time. And I found that pretty interesting. A nice little difference. Yeah. And the same thing happens. Luke Skywalker goes to the Dagobah system, and he gets trained by Yoda. Um, a couple little differences that I didn't write down, but the one that I wrote down that kind of stuck with me was before Yoda lifts the X-Wing out of the water, Luke tries and he fails, and then he says to Yoda, "You asked for the impossible." He doesn't say that in the book, but then Yoda does moves the ship, but he does say the line. Luke says, "I don't believe it," and Yoda says, "That is why you fail," which is, I really like that line. And another line that's in the book that I'm glad that was in the book was when Luke says, "I'm not afraid," and Yoda goes, "You will be." You will be. Love that, because I always love that line. That's one of my favorite lines of this movie. And it's the same thing, he starts having dreams and he wants to go save his friends. And about Han Solo about to be frozen. And right before he is about to be frozen, Princess Leia says to him, "I love you." And then he turns back and he says, "I know." In the book, he doesn't say that line. He actually says a different line. He actually says, "Just remember that, because I'll be back." And I'm so glad that they did not use that for the movie. Instead, they used the "I know" part, because that is something that is we all know from the movie The Terminator. And I'm glad that that was used in The Terminator opposed to being used in this movie. And I thought that was a pretty cool difference. And the fight between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker has slight differences there, but the one that really stuck out to me was at the very end when Luke Skywalker is hanging underneath Cloud City after the fight. He's missing his hand, and he actually falls like a foot and then gets caught by Lando Calrissian. Well, in the book, he falls like 30 feet, and they actually use the ship to catch him, which was a pretty cool difference to me. And I thought that was kind of interesting, so I wrote that down. And I didn't write down every single difference because, there were quite a few slight differences, but not so minute that it was kind of hard to keep track. I tried to the ones that really stuck out. And I actually plan on doing this again because I really enjoyed this book. And next time I do this, I'm going to actually keep track of all the lines that are in there. And, some of the parts that are there that are just like the movie. I mean, one thing about this book is it's a lot like the movie, and that's really enjoyable to me. So my opinion of this is that this is a fantastic story. I really enjoyed it. I was invested in this book very much so. I finished this book in a very short period of time, and it was wonderful. I just love the way it was written. It's wonderful. It really is, And one thing that I really dig about this sequel is that it's a lot different than Star Wars, because I really enjoyed Star Wars as well. I might have enjoyed that a little bit more, but I actually enjoyed this quite a bit. It's really wonderful, and I highly recommend it. Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, the unabridged version, is definitely worth your time. And that's about it. I want to thank everybody for being here. Please do me a favor and hit the like button if you like the video. I'd really appreciate that. Please let me know in the comments what you think. I'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. It means a lot to me to have your subscription. And at the same time, I'm constantly working on making these videos the best that I can. Although I'm not that good at it yet, but I really try my best. And I hope that you had a good time watching this video. And that's about it. I'm Peter the Book Lover. I hope you have a nice time. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for coming by.